And good evening. Welcome to the University of Dubuque football show here on this Monday night on the University of Dubuque campus with Chalmers Field in the background. Thanks for tuning in to our broadcast here this evening as the Dubuque Spartans coming off of a wild 49-42 win over Loras College to keep the key on campus. 13th straight season, the key has stayed in the trophy case here at the University of Dubuque, and hard-fought victory for the Spartans. And we're going to talk with head coach Ryan Myeri about the win and preview the next game on the schedule, which is Central College coming up this Saturday here at Chalmers Field. And a little later in the program, looks like in our assistant spotlight tonight, we're going to talk with offensive line coach Ryan Crable, as Coach Crable will be coming up a little bit later to talk about the Spartan offensive line for the 2024 season. Coach Myeri, 49-42 victory over Loras College. Thrilling back-and-forth game for the most part. You opened up a two-score lead, but then for the most part it went back and forth. And so your introduction to the Key City Clash was quite an introduction, I'll say that.
Yeah, it was a very emotional game and emotional roller coaster, like really ups and downs in the game. They played great. That was probably their best game they played this season, and you know, for the most part in the game, we played pretty well too, and you know, it was a great college football game. Like the weather was perfect, the attendance was amazing, the atmosphere was awesome, and you know, I couldn't ask for a better like first time in that, you know, that rivalry game. So it was pretty special to be a part of.
Well, I guess it shouldn't be surprising that the score was that close. And I think in the last 6 seasons, it's been within a score except for the previous season,
yeah.
And that was a one-score game till late in that contest. So we talked about it, you know, when it's a rivalry game, you throw the records out the window, you throw what's happened in the past out the window, and it's on.
Yeah, it's its own game. Like it's its own in its own space. Like you can't look at records or how people are playing or who's out there. Like you just got to bring your A game because you just never know what's going to happen. Like there's a lot of momentum behind it. It was actually interesting in the game. You could kind of feel like the momentum of the game just kind of shifting back and forth through the game. And I don't know if I felt it quite like that in games before, like to that magnitude.
A little motion sickness, perhaps.
Yeah, a little bit, for sure.
Well, like we said, a thrilling win back and forth. You had actually a 20-point lead at one time, narrowed down to a score at halftime. It's 34-28. So let's talk a little bit about that first half. I mean, you couldn't have opened up any better. First 2 drives, you go downfield and score touchdowns, take a 14-0 lead. So you had to feel great about how this thing opened up.
Yeah, we executed pretty well offensively out the gate and defensively, you know, to go up 2 scores right away. You know, our guys did really well executing the game plan that we put in place. So it was good to get off to a good start. And then we kind of just hit a few bumps in there and kind of let them claw back in. And again, like, you know, when you have opportunities to put teams away, you got to do that. And if you let teams hang around, then you give them an opportunity to, you know, get the victory. And, you know, we kind of let them hang around a little too much and didn't separate ourselves enough.
A lot of balls in the air on Saturday, both sides. 559 total yards of offense. You completed. Loras 438 yards, so 1,000 yards of offense, and most of it coming through the air. So was that maybe a bit of a surprise defensively for your team?
Yeah, I was a little surprised that we relinquished that amount of yards, mainly in the pass game. You know, they did a really good job of attacking us and exploited a few things. And in the first half, and I thought our guys did better in the second half. We made some good adjustments at halftime and did a better job in the second half and stuck to our game plan and guys being more disciplined with their assignments. And, you know, they executed a lot better, especially in the third quarter. So, you know, our halftime adjustments were really, really good.
Yeah, it was scoreless third quarter. Both teams took a bit of a break from putting up the points on the board, but then that fourth quarter came around and it was buckle your safety belt.
Yeah, like third quarter, man, I felt like there was like a force field around the end zone or something. Like we couldn't get past like the 15-yard line. And, you know, we had our opportunities and, you know, we talked to our guys a lot about making our free throws, you know. And when you get free throws, you got to make them. The team that has a higher percentage than that, usually in basketball games, that are doing pretty good and winning games and scoring points. And, you know, we had plenty of those opportunities and we weren't hitting them. So, you know, we had a great opportunity. Our defense is playing really well. And had we done that at that time, we would have separated again. And we just didn't take advantage of those opportunities offensively speaking.
as it turned out, one of the big storylines, and usually is in a rivalry game, any close ball game, is the turnover battle. And they had 5 turnovers. You did not turn the ball over, and you took advantage of one of those turnovers and turned them into 6 points, and that turned out to be huge. Yeah.
So we technically had a turnover. We had a strip sack. It was on a 4th down, so it would have been a turnover on downs anyways. And that was in that third quarter spurt there. And, we did a good job of actually getting on the ball. I guess we didn't turn it over. We got back on the ball, so it wasn't technically a turnover on a fumble, but we ended up turning over on downs. And then for them, turned over 5 times. It's hard to overcome that, and we turned one of those into a pick 6. And unfortunately, on another one, we had another great interception that put us in short field, and we couldn't capitalize on that. Their defense stiffened up and made some great plays, and we didn't capitalize. So those turnovers were key. Those were big time for us, especially down the stretch. We had a big time fumble. Landon Thomas and Dalton Wood simultaneously hit the running back, and they actually had a big gain. It was probably about 12, 15-yard gain, and the guy gets hit at the same time, and freaking ball goes flying out. We get on it. And that was a huge one, and then Noor getting interception on the last play of the game. So it was kind of cool to see that. We talked about it as a staff, kind of got to see both. In the first half, we give up a score in the 2-minute scenario, and then in the back half of the game, we do a good job of getting the takeaway and seal the game up. And so it was kind of like the tale of both through in one game there.
We talked about the interception that led to a touchdown, and talk a little bit more about the guy who made that happen, Dalton Wood. You've talked about him before. So pleased that he came back for his senior season, that you could coach him another year here at the U, and he gets a pick 6 for you in the maybe the biggest game of the year so far.
Yeah, definitely, and it was a big time play, and he's made plenty of big time plays in his career, and I think for him too, and for our program, just to have that moment in that game, and that kind of being the difference maker when you look back on all of it, that was a big time play for him and for us for sure.
Talked about total yards in the game. Excuse me, some other stats to look at, and if I can find them here on my sheet, I know I had them here. Yes. Net yards passing, 488 yards for the University of Dubuque, 359 for Loris. And as far as the turnovers, we talked about that. But what were some of the other things that maybe were difference makers in this that put you over the top?
Yeah, I'll talk about some of the players. It was big time for us Ben's pretty much fully healthy at this point, getting him back, and he had a really, really good game. He was dialed in for the most part. We had the unfortunate side of that, I know completion percentage-wise, I think he was around 55, 56%. Ideally, we want to be higher than that. We want to be mid-60s to 70. But we also had 7 drops in there. You don't have those 7 drops. Now we're right where we're supposed to be from that standpoint. But for the most part, he played pretty lights out and made some big plays for us. It was good to see Wade Sheets, have a breakout game. He had some big plays for us. And then Hunter Preston kind of stepped on the scene and had another big game for us and made some big plays. It's kind of created a debate who's the fastest receiver now, because Wade got hawked on one, and then Hunter separated on his. So I think they're trying to figure out, they might do a race here soon.
Well, I would come watch that. That'd be
I would too.
That'd be fun to watch. But Cameron Bryce, 11 catches, 188 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wade, you talked about 4 catches, 124 yards and a score, and then Hunter, century mark 2 for receiving yards, 140 yards, 5 receptions, and Jamari Jenkins catching a couple of big touchdown catches for you.
Yeah, I think he might have had 2 catches for 2 touchdowns, something like that, or something to that effect. In fact, the first touchdown, the first half felt so long. I felt like we were out there for a weekend, the whole weekend. And I forgot he even had 2 touchdowns. It was such a long half. So we were going back to watch film. I was like, oh, yeah, Jamari had a touchdown in the corner of the end zone, not the one. I totally forgot about it. But, yeah, it was kind of a blur. But, yeah, he played really, really, really well for us, both in pass protection-wise, but also, making some big plays down the field for us.
Yeah, he had 4 catches, 25 yards, and 2 of those were touchdown catches, as you mentioned. And, Coach, take us back to, I guess, Loris made this a 1-score game just before half. It was a stalemate in the third quarter. What was talked about, I guess, in the locker room when you went in with that situation?
Well, the big message was, make the necessary adjustments that we had to make, to get ourselves back in rhythm of what we did like the first 2 series of the game. And so we made some of those adjustments, and then just talking to the guys about staying the course. A big thing we talk about is flex and flow. Don't get tightened up. Things, they're not going to go our way all the time. We're doing our best out there, and then just relax a little bit, flex and flow, have some fun, and get back to the basics. And that's what our guys did really well. And finish the game the right way. That's what you want to do. They didn't tighten up. We go down the stretch, and they got an opportunity to score. They get the ball back, and our defense didn't flinch. So That was awesome to see.
Got a turnover to end it and make it a 49-42 victory and to preserve the key. And the celebration was on after that. It's fun to do it on the other opponent's field.
Yeah, it was really cool to see our guys, have that moment together and celebrate. And I was just kind of like a dad, enjoying watching your kids have that celebratory moment. And it was also cool for me, my son turned 2 on Saturday, so it was kind of like a double party then afterwards. So it was a really cool experience and moment, and one I won't forget.
Did you get him a key for his birthday that he got?
No, that's a good idea. I didn't even think to do that.
Well, there you go. Late birthday present.
Late birthday gift, yeah.
Well, Coach, it was certainly an exciting win. Again, a 49-42 the final. And, of course, that sets up a big game coming up this Saturday here at Chalmers Field. Big matchup at home against the Central College Dutch coming to Dubuque. We'll come back on the UD Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri and talk about that matchup and a little bit about the American Rivers Conference as it stands right now. And then a little bit later, we'll have our assistant coach spotlight, Ryan Craybill, the assistant coach, going to join us this evening on the UD Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri. We'll return in just a moment. University of Dubuque Football Show with head coach Ryan Myeri joining us here this evening. We just talked about the Spartans' third win in American Rivers Conference play, sitting at 3-1 in league play after that victory. And Coach, I guess we talked about the importance of the Loras win, but it's just a huge win for you with certainly more implications possible down the line. Each and every game so important.
Yeah, every game is important in its own right, no matter who you're playing against, because it's an opportunity for us to keep, pursuing our mission and vision for this program. And, every game matters, and none's more important than the other. Some seem to have more significance just because, like a rivalry game or something like that. But every game matters, that's for sure.
Well, the next game on the schedule is this Saturday at 1 o'clock at Chalmers Field as you'll take on the Central College Dutch. The last 10 matchups between these two teams split almost down the middle, 6-4 in favor of Central. Dominated the series, of course, throughout the course with the rich tradition Central has had, and last year ended up being a 55-16 win at Pella, and Central has won the last 3 in the series. But big ball game, of course, meaningful game in lots of regards, not only conference, implications, which have been set up. And let's talk about that first of all with the American Rivers Conference, how it's setting up after this past week.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're just in control of what we can do this week, and we got to do a great job in preparation, execution. But kind of if we handle our business and do our responsibility, we got to lean on Wartburg a little bit to take out Co. And if that happens, and then we find a way to win again in the next week against Nebraska Wesleyan, that would set up a big game against Wartburg. And but none of that matters if we don't take care of our own business here, and we can't control what's going to happen in the Co and Wartburg game. But we're still definitely in the mix, and anything can happen on any given Saturday.
Central 3-2 in league play with losses, both defensive struggles against Wartburg, 10-6 loss, and then that double overtime loss to Co-'s 16-13. So tough losses in those regards, and so Central's going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder the rest of the season.
Oh, certainly. Those are two really, really good football games. Like going through watching those, like those were outstanding games on both sides. It might have been more defensive battles, but that doesn't mean that the offenses weren't performing very well. They just didn't find their way in the end zone, and their defense is really stout. They're senior-led. They got a lot of seniors and fifth-year seniors. So they got great leadership over there, and they equally do on the offensive side of the ball as well. And they're a very tough group, tight-knit, well-coached, and so they're going to bring their A game. There's no doubt about that, and they got a lot to play for too still, because you never know how things shake out with the rest of the season.
Of course, a meaningful game for you as well personally, being just coming over from Central as an assistant, the offensive coordinator, and of course Coach Shepard, defensive coordinator the past couple of seasons there. And so, I guess you try not to think about that, but
yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah, and it's a part of it, like going into it, like that this was going to be a matchup that was going to happen, and I'm just looking forward to it, and our guys are looking forward to it for the competitive side of it, and I'm sure they're the same way on their side, like they want to compete, and we're excited for that opportunity. There's always emotions in every game. Maybe in this there's a little bit more from that, because there has been a history there, but at the end of the day, it goes down to preparation and execution, and you can't let your emotion, cloud your judgment or those things, and because that's going to be effective, or you're going to see that effect on a Saturday, and we don't want that to happen. So whatever emotions that anybody's feeling, like it's got to come down to preparation, execution all week, and that's what we want to do from today through Friday, and then show it on Saturday.
Both teams know each other extremely well with those thoughts in mind.
Yeah, definitely. So that makes it a unique matchup in that way. Like, they're going to know us as coaches, and then we're going to know them as coaches and players, and that adds a unique element to it for sure. And but like I said, like you can't let that be something that's a judgment clouder. Like you got to be focused on and intentional with what we're doing here, and not let those things get in the way.
Let's talk a little bit about Central, specifically what you've seen from them, what they've done resume-wise, offensively. First of all, talk about what you're going to be preparing for with the Central offense.
Yeah, their offense, they seem to still want to be up tempo, which they've been over the last couple of years. They want to change up the flow a little bit, but they ultimately want to go fast. You're going to see a mix of 11 personnel and 12 personnel type sets, which is like 2 tight ends, 1 back, 2 receivers, or they're going to be 1 tight end, 3 receivers, and 1 back, and then they'll mix in some different personnel type stuff. You're going to see a little bit more dose of run game, which they've kind of shifted their focus to a little bit more run dominant than they've been pass game, but it's not going to shock me if they flip the script this week. That's something that we can definitely see happening. They got really good receivers out on the perimeter with a lot of experience. Ryan New is, I think, arguably one of the best that you'll ever face, especially in this league. He's a top receiver in the country the last couple of years, in my opinion, and he's got crazy speed. So, like, that's something you got to be aware of. They got Cam Schulte equal to that on the other side. He's a big, tall, lanky receiver that has some physicalness to him as well. So, like, you got to match up with that too. So you got to be able to contend with the receivers, and then they got a slot guy that's really dangerous in both their tight end. Grant Nelson, who's been a 4-year player there and outstanding. He's actually, I think, having the best year that he's had in his 4 years. And then they got Keegan Glover in the other slot when they're in their 11 personnel stuff, and that's tough to contend with. So, you got to be able to kind of shift and cover down, and then also be able to play the run, and that's challenging to do, and you're going to get a lot of different formations. So when you mix all that in there, like you got great players and then a mix of formations, it's tough to, contend with all that. So that's going to be our challenge this week.
Defensively, obviously, the Wartburg and Co. games speak for themselves, holding those offenses to low point totals and suffering tough losses. So talk about the Dutch on the defensive side.
Yeah, they're all those guys over there are tough dudes, man. They work their butts off, and that starts in this winter and January. As soon as they hit the weight room, they do a great job of training and preparing themselves for those moments. And they fly around to the football. They're very physical, explosive guys, and they're running a really good scheme. They're putting their guys in good positions for success. Looks like they aren't asking their guys to do a whole lot, and really down to the details and fundamentals, and allowing their guys just to play to their strengths, and they're doing that really well. And a lot of those guys, again, have a ton of experience. So when you got a lot of experience and great leadership, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's coaching and what the scheme is. It comes down to the players, and they're freaking really good. So,
and obviously, Coach McMartin, been the head coach since 2004. He's the veteran coach in the league now, and has had a respected program, as you well know.
Yeah, he runs things the right way, and I when I got there, it was perfect timing for me in my career just to be developed and kind of learn how a great program is run, and that perfectly prepared me for this opportunity to take over a program and run the program. And I needed that even more so just for my personal life too. It developed me a lot as a man, because I was still, even though I was like 30, 31, 32, I was still kind of immature, and that was big for me in my growth and development off the field, maybe more so even than on the field as a coach.
I'm in my 50s. I'm still a little immature, Coach. So you're ahead of me. Well, it all comes down to who plays the best, obviously, and where do the Spartans have to take maybe your game to the next level to get this win and, keep some exciting possibilities going for the remainder of the schedule?
Yeah, I think the things that we keep preaching to the guys week in and week out is we got to find some consistency in our efficient. Like we got to become more efficient and consistent with that. And you see like spurts of it in the games. Like we'll have like these really high moments, and then there's equally opposite down moments, and there's really not much in between. So we got to find a way to we're going to make some mistakes, but let's not go all the way back down here. Let's kind of let it might dip a little bit, but it's got to go here and then come back up. And that's what's going to give us a chance. We got to be more consistent with our execution and eliminating pre-snap and post-snap penalties. That was a big thing too. We had 9 penalties for like 77 yards on Saturday. Those are killers, and some of them were 15-yarders, and one of them was so bad that I've already talked to the player about it, discussed those things shouldn't happen on a Saturday, and we got to have better control over ourselves and have some more, better emotional control, and we should be controlling our emotions, not letting our emotions control us. And we didn't do that well at times on Saturday. And that's the thing we got to put more focus on and emphasize.
All comes down to playing a 4-quarter game, a complete game. And so it sounds like that's what the goal is. And hoping to see that maybe for the first time this season on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. And, the other things are always you got to protect the football and, protect well up front, run the ball well. All those things go into it. But to me, there's a bigger thing of just how we're operating, pre and post snap, and then even on the sideline and how we're handling ourselves.
Well, Coach, big ball game this Saturday, obviously, for lots of reasons. Any final thoughts before we turn you loose on this segment?
No, I'm just super excited for this opportunity. Again, every week, excited for our guys to compete, for the ARC championship and that staying in that vision. And our guys are excited for that opportunity, and it's supposed to be a really nice day again. So I'm looking forward to that. We've been super blessed this year with great weather. There hasn't been a bad one yet, so let's keep that going. And we got Ryan Crable that's going to come in and talk to you a little bit. It's been awesome to have him. He's a staff member that was retained, in the transition, and he does a phenomenal job for us. He does all our equipment and stuff and travel. And man, if I didn't have him, he's our life support between him and Rob Huberty, doing our recruiting stuff. Those are our 2 major lifelines that we rely on. And, his girlfriend, Sam, They're a great part of our program. They got a dog, Willow. Willow doesn't like me very much though. So,
What kind of dog is it?
yeah, she's a chocolate lab, I believe, is
wow.
her breed. And
Labradors are great dogs too, so
yeah,
it must be something with you.
I think it's me. It's more me than her. So, but yeah, he had her in the office the other day, and she was not interested in me at all. So
bring some treats next time.
I'm going to work on that. I'll find an angle. We got Halloween coming up. I'm sure I'll have some treats that she probably shouldn't have, but no, he's been a blessing for us and does a great job with our O-line, connects with those guys really well, and it's been just a pleasure to have him with our program still.
We'll look forward to meeting Ryan here in just a moment. And, Coach, we'll look forward to watching the Spartans this coming Saturday. And folks can tune into the broadcast here on udspartans.com and hope for that victory to keep things going in the right direction for the UD Spartans. Thanks for joining us, and we'll let you go here on this Monday night.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Tim, as always.
All right. Ryan Myrie, head football coach here at the University of Dubuque, joining us. And we'll come back and have our assistant coach spotlight segment with Ryan Craybill in just a moment. Hey, we're back on the University of Dubuque football show here on this Monday night here on udspartans.com, I think, and YouTube. And we got Ryan Craybill, the assistant coach who's going to join us tonight, and the assistant coach spotlight, offensive line coach for the Spartans this season, and has been on the Spartan staff, as Coach Myrie said, a couple of previous seasons. And, Coach, good to see you again.
Yes, thank you for having me. I've been a fan of the show for a long time. I think you've been doing this for over 10 years now, so
yeah, it's
cool to be a part of it.
It's been mounting up there, so I look back and it's like, wow, where did time go sometimes? So
Yep.
It's certainly been a lot of fun and keeping track of Spartan football, and glad you're continuing on as a University of Dubuque head football coach this season. I know Coach Myrie spoke that he's certainly thankful to have you, and just talk about your views on the 2024 season thus far.
Yeah, man, I'm thankful to be here. Coach Myrie keeping me on staff has been awesome. Learning from him has been good. Just having a fun season, trying to get the offensive line to play well every Saturday. As we know, the ARC is a competitive conference. There's no easy games, so just getting them ready the best I can is what I'm trying to do.
That offensive line, of course, doesn't get all the pub, and it's tough work being an offensive lineman. But talk about your guys; they certainly are a necessary element, and talk about that offensive line this year.
Of course. I tell the guys that probably in America it's probably the most popular sport and one of the most important positions on the team.
Yeah.
So have a lot of pride in what you do. We got a veteran group. Some guys that have started a lot of games in their careers. Some guys that have just had to wait their turn and making the most of their opportunities this year. Left to right, left tackle Charles Holyfield, left guard Ryan Norwood, center Wes Spitzmiller, right guard Weston Leader, and right tackle CJ Tolbert for our starting five most of the games. And then we got Carson Fensky, who's also another senior. He hasn't had quite the career he's wanted to with some injuries and things like that, but anytime that he's been able to play, he's played really well. So if football had a sixth man of the year for O-line, we'd probably give that to him. So those will be the guys that you'll see out there on the field for us.
Of course, one of the important things in a football program is to try to build depth. And do you feel like you've made strides there at the offensive line position of the U?
Yeah, absolutely. One thing we've been able to do this year is play JV games, which we haven't done here in a long time. So it's been fun for those guys that don't get to play on the Saturday varsity games to get out there to compete, run our plays and just get their feet wet a little bit. So hopefully that pays off, in the future.
Coach Meyer talked about some of your other jobs on the University of Dubuque staff, and boy, there's a lot to balance. And when it comes to recruiting, talk about that. I know Coach Meyer's brought in a philosophy, and I guess maybe it's not a new philosophy because relationships are so important, and that's what you guys are focused on and finding the right guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially at our level, their academics is first and football is second, so we want to bring guys in that value education as well as relationships. So recruiting for me in the past, I've kind of been all over the map, recruiting all different positions, but I'm going to take more responsibility for recruiting offensive linemen to help build relationships with them before they get here onto campus and just make sure it's a smooth transition for them when they get here.
One thing we really haven't talked about on the show, I think much this season, is strength and conditioning, and I know you've got a background in that. And talk about the University of Dubuque's philosophy a little bit. I'm in the few minutes that we have, that could take a while to talk about, but
Sure.
just talk about the strength and conditioning program.
Yeah, I'm a few years past my prime when it comes to helping out with that kind of stuff, but I have a little bit of experience with it. But very important for football players, but offensive linemen especially,
right.
Offensive, defensive linemen. So Coach Cole does a good job with the program, making sure those guys are, one, getting strong, getting conditioned, but also just keeping them healthy. Their best attribute they can have is being accessible and be able to play. So it's not just about loading up the bar and squatting as far as you can down. It's about being athletic and also strong. So from what I see, I'm not getting up in the morning and washing them, but from what I can hear from the guys, that they enjoy it and it's challenging for them.
Coach, my favorite dogs are Labrador Retrievers, so I wish you really would have brought Willow on the program here tonight. But we might have had to have Coach Myeri exit the way it sounds. So
yeah, well, he might be allergic, and she'd probably be licking you or looking for food. So, no, but she's a good dog.
Yeah, well, yeah, Labradors are great dogs. Coach, anything else you want to add about this 2024 season? I know you're looking ahead, don't want to look too far ahead, but obviously one game at a time, and this is obviously a big one coming up Saturday.
Yeah, we've had our up and downs this year, but we're trying to get in the right direction, and like I said before, every week is a competitive game. So, looking forward to everyone that comes out to support on Saturday. If you can't make it, join the live stream, and, just thankful for all the support staff here that allow us to do our favorite thing is coach football. So thankful to those people as well.
Coach Crable, pleasure seeing you again. Thanks a lot for stopping by and being on the assistant spotlight here this evening. And we'll see you down the road. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet. Ryan Crable joining us on the assistant coach spotlight as we wrap up our UD football broadcast here for the Football Coaches Show. But coming up Saturday, you want to tune in, just as Coach Crable mentioned, udspartans.com for the University of Dubuque and Central College. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff. If you can't make it to Chalmers Field, be sure to tune in. But if you can get here, it's going to be a great Saturday to come out and watch some small college football, and it should be a good one. So that's going to wrap up our broadcast for this evening. I'm Tim Larry for the UD Football Show.